party time.
So sometimes the Hispanic thing kicks in, and
Yes.
like the lyrics just go.
Not happening.
Don't really understand what happens sometimes.
All right, Fonzie. Hump day. It's Wednesday.
It is
Let's
Wednesday,
go.
indeed, my
Favorite
friend.
part of the day?
Coffee, check, and now I'm ready for the podcast.
You had coffee at 3 p.m. Are you gonna sleep?
I had coffee
That's the question.
like an hour ago. So
Like an hour ago. Okay.
Not too bad. Let's see. All right, here we are.
You good? Is your computer okay today? Let me ask you. Is your computer okay today?
And we are. You can
I can show our faces.
show our faces now. We're ready to
All
go.
right, here we go. What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Content is Profit Wednesday live recording behind the scenes with Fonzie and Luisa, and an incredible guest is behind cameras right now. I am so freaking excited. I've been consuming his content for the last few days, and there's some secrets out there for you content creators and producers that we might be able to share, but cannot wait to dive in. Fonzie, the first time that he joined, he was like, dude, you have no idea, like the conversation I just had. And anyways, so I was like, stop right there. I don't want to know anything because I want to be as surprised as you when we start the show. So
I'm super excited. This is shared out in the world, and I'm ready to go. Ready to rock and roll, baby.
all right, here we go.
I even zoom in on my cheat sheet right here so I wouldn't miss any single letter.
All right, let's make it happen.
We've got
Hey,
some
I'm
fresh
Luis.
young
And
talent
I'm
doing some
Luis.
things
And you're
that I
listening
know
to the
you haven't
Content
heard
is Profit
before.
podcast.
Where we talk about entrepreneurship, mindset, and of course, how to turn your content into profit.
Go to contentisprofit.com and join the community, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.
Yes.
Short and sweet today.
Short and sweet.
I actually
Fast
like
and
it.
furious thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like this intro right
I was
now.
thrown off for a second in there. If you want to know more, just connect with us. Hey, Fonzie, what are we talking about today? Tell me,
Today
please.
we're talking all about building your platform, amplifying your message, and building your own empire.
You will not believe who is behind the third mic today, guys. It's going to be incredible. Just going to put that out there.
I know.
But before we get started, Fonzie, do we have a sponsor today?
Indeed, we do. Thank you for asking,
You're
good
welcome.
sir. And today's sponsor is your own, The Biz Bros.
Let's go.
Yes, we sponsor our own podcast
That's
with
right.
content momentum. And you might be asking yourself, what is content momentum? Well, if you produce a long form piece of content, just like this one that you're listening to or watching, and you need a plug and play team to maximize your efforts and create lots of assets so you can
Let's
share
go.
it all over social media, we are here to help you out. So slide in the DMs at BizBrosCo on Facebook, on Instagram.
That was beautiful, Fonzie. That was beautiful. Hey,
Appreciate
go ahead
it.
and follow the show too, because every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, the audio is dropping on your phone, on your favorite platform with incredible value, golden boulders, like we call them here, for you to take action in your life and business to move everything forward. So
That is right.
Yes.
That is absolutely right. And if today's guests help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode because you might be doing the exact same thing for somebody else. And leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Special episode alert. Today we have a business royalty in the house. One of the most impressive entrepreneurs we've had on Content is Profit to date. You better get a pen and paper, as today's guest will help you build your own empire.
That is right. Today's guest is a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, 13-time best-selling author, a judge on Entrepreneur.com's Elevator Pitch TV show, a total media master.
Yes.
But most importantly, he's here to help you take the right steps when it comes to growing your business and sharing your message.
He has been educating, entertaining, and inspiring business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives for nearly 3 decades. Yes, he is the real deal. He has consulted and advised people like Tony Robbins, Paula Abdul, and Jordan Belfort, aka the Wolf of Wall Street.
I'm just gonna throw this out there: 3 decades. That's
That's
more.
my age.
Yeah,
Just
that's
gonna put that out there.
you
Yeah,
know.
just like,
So
woo.
the amount of experience we're getting to end the show is absolutely
Let's
amazing.
Go. Let's go.
Without further ado, please welcome the media master himself and soon to be Content is Profit Hall of Famer, Mike Koenigs.
Woo-hoo. Hey boys, how you doing?
Oh, we're doing so good, Mike. We're so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much.
my pleasure. It's nice to be here. I love working with young entrepreneurs like you guys who are just great hustlers. And so let's get the show on the road. What can we do to make everyone's dreams come true?
Absolutely. So, well, I think Mike, like a great place to start, right, is a little bit of you. Like, who are you? You came from a small town into a big city at some point, right? Like, can you walk us through like the why of what you're doing today, right? Because you've been in this industry for quite a while now. You've seen many things. You've seen the evolution, right? But that first like little bug that got you, what was it?
Well, the real honest answer is I grew up in a very small town in Minnesota, Eagle Lake, Minnesota, which is about 2 hours south of Minneapolis. And I'm the oldest of 4 kids. My dad was a barber. And I didn't know what leverage was at the time, but I instinctively knew my dad didn't have it because he got up every day like a clock. He cut hair. He came home. He was tired. And getting my dad's attention and being able to do something, our idea of a vacation was go up north in the back of it, riding in the back of a pickup truck, going fishing for a week. And that's what happened once a year. That was, and so growing up in Minnesota, where the winters are extraordinarily cold, I never liked the winter. I didn't like being lower middle class and poor. I didn't like living in a small town. I didn't get it. And so I wanted, if someone said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be warm first and rich. And so I was never good at school. Horrible student. Like the minute I sit down in a classroom, I'm asleep, and it's always been that way. So I'm either making trouble or I got to be the one entertaining the audience. So I taught myself how to program when I was 14 years old. I was really interested in movies and video games and audio. So I taught myself how to produce music and audio. Ended up connecting with a filmmaker when I was young. But I was writing video games at an early age, and that led to starting a digital marketing agency. We started one of the first in the world. It was called Digital Cafe. We started in 1989, sold it in 99 to a publicly traded company. But along the way, I married my high school sweetheart. We went through a divorce because I was just busy all the time. I was focused on my business and not her. So as I like to say, my first business cost me my first marriage. And my second and third businesses nearly cost me my life and my second marriage and my relationship with my son, my only son. So as time went on, I learned direct response marketing. I started marketing on the internet back when there wasn't practically no internet. We were doing stuff on America Online and Prodigy and Apple Link and Delphi. I mean, channels some people have never even heard of. Yeah. But we started picking up clients like 20th Century Fox and Sony doing early movie promotions and some of the first websites for movies and film. And after we sold that business, my partner and I made a feature film and got it distributed by Warner Brothers. But every step of the way, I struggled with the same thing everyone else struggles, which is scaling, managing clients, managing a team, paying our bills, getting paid, filling our calendar with qualified customers, just like struggle. Yeah. And when I got introduced to direct response marketing and online marketing, I ended up meeting some of the original OGs, and they became friends of mine, like Jeff Walker and Frank Kern and Mike Filsame, and at the time, Andy Jenkins, and some of the second and third generation guys like Brendan Burchard and Russell Brunson, who we used to promote each other's stuff, get on each other's, get involved in each other's launches and all that kind of thing. Yeah. There's a lot of other steps in between, but at least that'll get you a little bit moving forward until we talk about cancer and managing life in general.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for
the timeline,
for sharing. Yeah, I think it is important for people to understand, right, where you're coming from, especially so they can relate, right? I mean, a lot of people, they might be like, man, I'm stuck in that place right now where I'm managing clients or I'm managing a team and I might be just working in the business instead of working on the business. That I think is so important to share these stories, right? So people can relate to them. And I love the fact that you talk about the response marketing. That was our entry point into the online world as well. And I remember when we had our previous conversation where you were like, oh, I saw you had Rich on your podcast, right? And, Rich Schaefer, and he's somebody that we look up to, very excited. Also Todd Brown, incredible people. So for those out there, direct response marketing is a skill that you need to learn for sure, right? You need to start educating yourself. Let's go a little bit that way. I'm curious on, for you, what was it that caught your attention about direct response marketing, right? And why is it so important in this world of media, right? Multimedia, when we're creating so much content and getting in front of other people's.
Well, I think the first thing is, if you learn how to write a great sales letter, and these days the sales letter doesn't mean like sales copy, but it can mean a great video. It can mean an email. But if you put that in front of the right person, you can make any dream you have come true. You can enroll someone. Like if $1,000 is a lot of money to you, well, getting $1,000 is easy. If $10,000 is a lot to you, getting $10,000 is easy. $100,000, $250,000, even $1 million or more. And what I was intrigued with, so this goes back a while, but like in 1985 or 84, Congress made it possible to do something called long format video on television, which is basically an infomercial. Before then, you could do a 30-second or up to, I think, maybe a 90-second commercial. But it became possible that you could run a 30-minute infomercial. And one of the first people who did that was a guy named Joe Sugarman. Later on, Tony Robbins started doing it. And Joe Sugarman sold something called blue blocker sunglasses, which basically are glasses that kept out the blue light from the sun. But the way he did it is he took a film crew on Venice Beach, and he walked along and handed people glasses and caught their reaction shot. So they'd put on the glasses and they'd go like, oh, wow, everything's so clear. And the thing that really got that infomercial going is it was during the early days of rap, and a guy on the boardwalk picked up the glasses, put them on, and sang a rap in real time about how blue blockers were so easy to see through, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And the video went viral. But this is back in the television days when you'd have to wait for it to be on to watch it. But Joe Sugarman sold $1 billion worth of sunglasses with blue blockers. And if you fast forward a few years, I was speaking at an event because the first product I ever created was called the Internet Infomercial Toolkit. And I released it in 2003. Now, YouTube came out in 2005. So this literally came out before there was a YouTube. And I was showing people how to use video to sell stuff online. And I completely adapted the television infomercial. Yeah. And I modeled a lot of what I learned from Joe Sugarman. But I met Joe, and I was about to create the second version of the infomercial toolkit. And I told Joe who I was. And I said, Joe, I'd love to do a partnership. If there's anything I can do for you, if I can interview. And he goes, stop. The answer is yes. He said, why don't you fly to Vegas and meet me? I'll pick you up at the airport, take you to my studio. You can interview me and you can do whatever you want. And I go, well, what do you want? He goes, I don't want anything. He says, I made plenty of money. I don't want money. I just love helping out young entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And my brain was like, tried to explode because I'm so used to like, what do I need to do for you? What do I need to do for you? What do I, and it's like, you asking me to help you, the answer is always yes. Yeah. And I wasn't used to getting that kind of mentorship, but that's really how that product came to be. Is I just reached out to some of the old OGs of infomercials and asked for their help. And every time they'd always say, yes, yes, and yes. And they gave me license rights to use their infomercials. They gave me scripts. They talked to me. And I created $1,000 information product that made millions of dollars. And I just sold it online, sold it with teleseminars. There were no webinars then.
Yeah.
I find this fascinating, right? Because we're looking, obviously we haven't been as close to like this experience as you have been, right? On time and in contact with those OGs that today, people like us, for example, it is really challenging to maybe get in contact with one of those guys because, the years of experience, the filters that go through, right? And this is incredible to go look back and just know, like, for example, for us, a big thing has been asking for the show, right? Like everybody, just like with you or with Todd or with Rich, right? It has been just like, hey, let's go ask, right? You never know what's going to happen. What's the worst that can happen? They say no, and then we're still in the same place and we ask again. So they come to the show, right? Until we show up to their house and knock on the door. But guess what? The answer, like, more than likely is going to be like, yes, right? Because people want to help, especially people that are at that level. There's a lot of people that are learning. And I think people take that for granted, or they assume that normally the worst scenario possible, and then they freeze to do that, right? So something that has helped us produce and evolve with Content is Profit has been, we call it table face, right? We're like, just go and ask for what you want, right? And then from there, we're gonna get an answer, either a yes or a no, right? Either way, we win, because if it's a no, we know what direction to take after that. So it's I love the fact that this shows up also in your story, and I'm sure not only in this case, but so many. And let this be a lesson, right, for those that are listening. Be like, hey, go and ask, knock on the doors, right? Like, be out there, be present for those opportunities. And like Fonzie say, the extrovert theory, right? Be out there, put yourself out there so you can attract those opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, what I see here on you asking them for this mentorship, I relate it so much to the podcasting industry nowadays in certain platforms for certain people, right? For example, for us, it has been that way, right? It has been a great way for us, not just to build an audience, but make the right connections, right? I mean, who would have known we were going to be here with you, Mike, talking, right? That is an incredible opportunity for not only us to learn, but at the same time, share your message with many other people that can learn as well for you. So I think the concept, the principle has stayed the same, but now the platform and the technology allows for it to distribute it or to happen in a very different way. And I'm extremely curious, right? I mean, you mentioned that this was 85 when Joe Sugarman released this, and then the upcoming years you started, asking for their mentorships. How has it changed, right? Because I do see a little bit of, and this is just my own perspective, kind of like the marketplace getting a little bit clogged with, sales talking about copywriting and people talking about these topics. But how has it changed throughout these years?
Well, I'm going to tell you that nothing's changed, except I think the world's gotten lazy, complacent, and samey. And so I'm going to sound like an old boomer for a second, even though I'm not a boomer. I'm not a Gen X. I fit solidly in the nothing. Okay. I don't have a generation to speak of. But like, I listen to most music these days, and it all got simple and samey. There aren't, in my experience, a lot of great songwriters and great performers. It's like ooch, 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 music.
Okay,
and if you look at social media is a bunch of ooch, ooch, ooch. It's fake boobs, fake lips, fake butts, and fake. Yeah. And we always hear authenticity matters, but the people who are professing authenticity are fake as hell, telling you what they think you need to hear, what you want to hear, not what's real. Yeah. And so, what great direct response is it's crafting a message that nails your audience and speaks to them. It's a movie starring the viewer or the listener with them as the hero, and they're trying to convince you, or you're trying to convince them, that you should be their guide, their Gandalf, their Yoda, their Jesus, their Muhammad, their whomever, to lead them to the promised land and either meet the prince or rescue the princess, slay the dragon, and live happily ever after. That is the eternal Joseph Campbell story.
Yeah.
Now, in the case of like, if you think about it, how did you guys get attention of whether it's Rich Schefren or Todd Herman or whoever you interview, whether it's me, it's you had the guts to reach out and you gave me a story that I said yes to participating in. And nowadays everyone is reachable. And the illusion that people are less reachable just means it's less reachable for those who are uncreative. Anyone who's an ooch and a fake butt, fake boob, fake tit, fake lip world, you are going to be ignored because you're same, and boring.
Yep.
And if you want to get someone's attention when everything's ooch, then play some country music.
Let's go.
And like Lil Nas X did something that shocked the world in a way. He was a crossover. Now he's at the point, frankly, he went way off the edge and now he lost most of his followers, in my opinion. It'd be like, whoa, depends how far you skid off the tracks. But he did everything right and he got a player behind him. He went out and he partnered. He created a collaboration with some of the most popular artists in the world with something truly unique. And they're like, I want to be part of this. I get it, right? And
Absolutely.
so you just got to be resilient and innovative and switch things up.
Yeah.
And you have to really learn to ignore what's samey. And I just read a couple, like an hour ago, that TikTok is officially taken over listening time over YouTube.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah. Well, on one hand, that's great. And I'll tell you what, if you want to be unique and different, don't watch TikTok. Okay? Now, it's like wherever the lemmings are going, to me, that's where death is next. And I avoid crowds at all costs, because if you want to get, someone's going to come along and drop a bomb or light everyone on fire. And I don't want to be in a giant group unable to escape. So I go where no one is. If a crowd's moving in one direction, you can be rest assured I'm running in the exact opposite direction. Yeah. And I started running the moment I saw the masses move in one direction. So that would be my answer, is if you are a lemming, then you're probably going to fail at direct response marketing. You need to be an outcast. You need to feel like an alien. You need to feel like it's us versus them and be part of the rebellion, not the empire.
I love all these movie references, by the way. I think they're absolutely amazing.
I think right now with what you're saying, right? Because I feel so identified, right? Like I remember, I remember a moment at school, and even like, I mean, most of our life, I think we've been outcasts in a different sense, right? We always wanted to be professional soccer players, right? So we were the guys that would stay in to go play the next day, right? Like it was very different. Like when we were the only Venezuelans in Europe in our group when we were there, right? So then we come to the States and we're on soccer scholarship. We're the international guys. Like mindset wise too, it was like we're not where everybody wants to be, and as we go there, right? I remember thinking, why do I feel this way? Like why am I feeling like confused, right? I think confused is the right word, right? And then nobody like came to me and be like, dude, you're on the right path. Like chill, relax. Like you are okay. You will figure this out, right? And as we start developing like the business, like we've shared many times that this has been an incredible growth experience, right? Personally and in the business side of things, like we never knew how big of a roller coaster this thing is, right? And we're like excited to be here. My wife is like, she doesn't understand. She was like, dude, you're insane. Go get a job. Like stop this roller coaster, right? But at the same time is what makes us feel alive. When we started publishing, right? Like we're like, oh, we're finding all these outliers as well that are crushing, that are having an incredible life. They went through all their stuff, all their shit, but at the same time, they are so happy, they're fulfilling, they're helping, they're serving, right? So thank you for saying that, because, over 200 episodes, I don't think anybody has been that clear. And as you're telling that story, I'm like, I feel okay, right? Not that I wasn't, but I feel okay, more okay now. And I want to acknowledge that for the listener, because there might be some people in there that really feel like an outcast, and just know that you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Mike showing us here. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
There's one word I want to relate this to. I know that you have a question, but do you give me permission, Fonzie?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm all inspired, Mike. All right. So at the beginning of your story, you mentioned leverage, right? And you mentioned your dad. Like, I identified that my dad didn't have enough leverage, and that has been a word that means a lot for us, which we've used many times to get people on the show to start relationships, right? And personally, for me, when I first started, I felt a little dirty using leverage, right? I'm like, and we talked about a few people about this, right? But in your words, what is leverage and what has done for you? For us, has been nothing but positive, right? And it completely changed my perception around that word, right? So, what does it mean to do that? Because some of this that you've shared has an element of leverage.
Yes. Well, let's explain first of all what leverage isn't, and how to remove the dirty word or the feeling that leverage is bad from your vocabulary and your brain forever. So in the case of my dad growing up, so he's got a family of 4. He grew up very, very poor on a little farm in Iowa. And for all practical purposes, he was the youngest boy. So he was expected to stay home and take care of the farm. And he wound up becoming an indentured servant to his uncle, who was abusive and mean and basically made him a slave. And my dad joined the military to escape the farm. And he was really short. He was like 5 foot tall. And he didn't grow to 5'6", which is the tallest he ever was on his best day ever, until he was in his 20s. So just imagine this poor kid from Iowa, 5 foot tall, as more or less a little slave on this little farm. And hard worker, great, just a really good person, but a man of the earth. You know, you wouldn't meet him and go, what a genius or something. He could dance, he could sing, he was entertaining and funny. You know, that's how he made up for being a little kid.
Yeah.
But he ended up going into the military, and while he was there, he started playing guitar. He became a very good entertainer. He also led a Boy Scout troop. He was an Eagle Scout back when being a Boy Scout didn't mean either being an abused or being an abuser, but when it really gave young men possibility and potential. And it also, he started cutting hair. So here he is in the military, and he found a way to make some extra money, which in a way is a little bit of leverage. Yep. But he came home, got his barber's license, and got a job, and eventually took over the shop and ran it. Yeah. But, you know, a haircut was worth about $5. And on your best day, you could maybe squeeze in 3 haircuts an hour. Okay. If you're going to have a relationship with the person in the chair. And if you worked 8 hours, you know, when you had a booked calendar, that's 24 times $5, you know, you're making $75 a day, which, you know, maybe $100 a day was good at that point, but it's not a lot of money to feed a family of 4 and have a house and, you know, my mom was a housewife. So, now what he started doing though, to gain a little leverage, is he found out how to create hair pieces. So it's basically men's wigs before they had implants or, and everything else you do today. So then you could custom cut these things and fit them and make a couple $100. So if he'd do a hair piece or 3 a week, you know, he'd double his income, and he could make as much in an hour doing a hair piece as he would all day cutting 24 heads. Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And like this guy got up every day that I can remember at 6 a.m., made a pot of coffee, got in his pickup, drove to work, came home, had a drink, and fell asleep in the chair. You know, that was the vision I had of my dad. Now I give you that extended long story to create a frame. Okay. So leverage to me is, on one hand, if you can leverage your time to earn more in less time, like he did, he got it. Now he also was the building inspector for our town, the city clerk. He also sharpened scissors. He did handyman work. Like, this guy was always busy, but at the expense of the relationship with his kids and my
Yeah.
mom. All right. That ain't leverage. That's negative leverage. Okay. So this is more than making money. Now, true leverage historically has been buy some rental properties and upgrade the place. So maybe you buy it for 200 grand, upgrade it. So the bank says it's now worth 350, pull out the 150,000 because the thing's increased in value, and use that money to buy another property, all while you generate enough rental income to pay the bills and maybe a little extra. You get 10 of those things going, where now in that case, you can be leveraged, meaning if the market takes a dump, you're screwed. Okay. That's bad leverage. But a good leverage is when the market keeps on going up, or if, let's say, the three of us decided, hey, we've got an idea to create a little software company, and we're going to leverage our listeners, our viewers, and our followers. Maybe there's 100, maybe there's 1,000 who'd each pay $100 or $1,000 a month. Well, the way you make money is 1,000 times 1,000 is 1,000,000. So if you had 1,000 customers paying you $1,000 a month, that's $1,000,000 a month, baby doll.
Let's go.
And there's no such thing as passive income when it comes to software. You got to have a team. You got to have developers. There's going to be risk. What happens if your credit card company blows up one day? But at least on the surface, the passive income is a form of leverage, but there's always a price for it, right? It's either a lifestyle, risk. So I think leverage is, to me, a better phrase is balanced leverage. That's when it's acceptable risk, enough upside, without harming your lifestyle, your quality of life, or your relationships.
Yeah.
And so, again, that was a long-winded explanation, but I think balanced leverage in a form of passive income with an upside where you can sell the asset someday. In the case of, if you built a software company, one of the things that I had going for me is I had 2 software companies after I sold Digital Cafe, and I got multiples on that. Meaning, if you've got a really good software company, and let's say it's generating $5 million a year, and half of that's profit, so $2.5 million of it's profit. Well, if that's recurring revenue to a private equity firm, they might give you 10 or 25 times your EBITDA. Okay, which for all practical purposes, we'll call it your profit.
Yeah.
So imagine getting 10 times $2.5 million, or 20 times $2.5 million. That's what I call a good day in the office, honey. It might have been 10 years to get there, but so that is a place of leverage. If you can be building something, earning money, doing it without too much risk, and getting huge multiples when you exit, that's great leverage.
Wow. I love that. I love that definition, of balanced leverage, which is enough risk, good upside, and that doesn't hinder your personal life, right? And I think that's where most people fail when they go into entrepreneurship, is they expect they need to sacrifice, right, certain aspects of their life to make it up in other sides, particularly in the business, right? And I felt that way myself, honestly. I felt I have a girlfriend, and I felt sometimes that I'm like, oh, well, I need to sacrifice my part of my relationship to dedicate to the business, right? Maybe I need to rethink certain things on, like, okay, are the activities that I'm doing, do they have the right upside? And that is something we've actually seen, that is like, maybe we just need to eliminate a few of these things from the table so we can focus on the right things, right, that are going to move us forward. And when we're talking about balanced leverage, the one thing that comes to mind, Mike, is what you told me when we first talked behind the scenes, right? Our first conversation, that is like, you were like, I decided to leave everything so I could help people. So I could help people, build their own empires, be the best that they can be, right? And when you're talking about balanced leverage, I'm like, this is probably what he's trying to teach them, right? He's trying to teach them how to be able to live their life while building a successful business with good upside, right? So then we can have a good day at the job, right?
Yeah, good day at the office.
At the office, good day at the office, right? So I want to go there, right? Because I know you have some incredible case studies. You've helped incredible amounts of people, but I'm also particularly interested and fascinated, honestly, how you managed to get these people so much attention from the market wherever they are, right? And again, now attention is one of the most important currencies in that we can aim for, right? We want attention, so then we can turn that into the business. So how do we do this? What is, obviously we don't have the time to go fully detail, but I'm curious about this process that you left everything for.
Sure. Well, let me I'm going to answer a different question, but I think I'm going to get us to the answer, because what I want to do is say, I will give you a case study on how I helped very rapidly build an entire platform for someone who no one knew who they were. He had no social media platform, no website. No one had ever heard of him before. And then we created a brand, made him a best-selling author, created an entire platform, generated over $1 million in less than 8 months, and it's turned into a multi-million-dollar business to this day. Okay.
Wow.
I will promise to go down that rabbit hole in a moment. And the story is the lifestyle investor, Justin Donald. I'll use him as an example.
Let's go.
But before I get there, and also tell you another one where we worked with a financial advisor and created a one-man comedy show that now is going to be going national. And it will most likely be a television show and a series as well. Okay. So it'll be like, taking something that historically is super boring and making it really interesting.
Yeah.
But before, I will just say, here's what I find the typical entrepreneur's journey is. So, like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, not all, but many, come from a tough life. They're kind of poor, lower middle class, not great at school. You feel like the outcast. Like I say, the movies to refer to in the 80s were like Revenge of the Nerds, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, War Games, that if you've ever heard of that or seen it.
Yep.
But they're all like the outcast, the nerd. And I remember the moment I heard my nephew talking about how if you talk to girls his age, and this is a couple of years ago, they weren't rooting for the football star, homecoming king of yesteryear. Now they're looking for Bill Gates. They were going for the nerds. And I thought, hell yeah, the world's finally changed, and I know growing up, it'd be like, if you were the smart guy, if you're hanging out with the computers,
game over.
No chick wanted you, You might as well just cover yourself in BO spray.
Yeah.
But, the world's changed in that regard. But the pathway that we take as entrepreneurs a lot of time is this: I don't want to be poor anymore, and I want my freedom. I'm never going to flip another burger, rake another lawn, mow another. I don't want to be like everyone else, trying to get away from that factory job or whatever factory means. Yeah. And I'll do anything to get out of that, oftentimes at the expense of your health, your relationships, and whatever else, right? It's just like you put your head down, and it's very easy to wake up one day 20 years later and your kids don't know who you are. Your wife hates you or has long left you. You're fat. You've got an alcohol problem. And you won the prize. You finally got the money. And you realize along the way your values changed. All the things that you thought were so important, when you get them, you realize the stuff that mattered was the stuff that you destroyed along the way. And that's so typical that what I've found is oftentimes after you hit your big win and then you grind and grind because it's like, well, what if that was luck? You start doubting yourself. and think that maybe you can't do it again. So now you push yourself again. Okay. And some people risk it all and they lose it all because the first time was kind of lucky. Right place, right time, right partners, right everything. And maybe they got unlucky the second time and lose it all. And then you got another monkey on your back. But what I've found and what happened to me is I had built and sold 5 businesses. Along the way, I had cancer. I almost died. And that was like, and my marriage wasn't going great at the time. I wanted out. I've got a 14-year-old boy, even younger than that at the time. Let's see, he's 19 right now, 8, he's 11. Okay. Wow. So, and like I missed a lot of games because I was being busy and traveling and pitching and selling and blah, 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 blah. Right. Yeah. So, about 3 years ago, after all this, I couldn't get out of bed. I was hardcore depressed. I was anxious and I lost my courage. I lost my drive. And I was like, I hate my business. I felt like a bitch. It's like I got a lot of overhead. I got a lot of people work for me. I got a really complicated funnels. I'm advertising on Facebook and Instagram and everything else. And all my ads quit working. My funnels quit working. I'm losing $250,000 a month. And I hate everything. And I'm like hard depressed. Like I literally wanted to be dead. And at the same time, I felt like I have no right to feel this way. I'm successful. I've lived the American dream. I got a place on the beach. I drive a fancy sports car. I'm married to a beautiful person. I got this kid. I have. And at the same time, I'm feeling empty inside.
Wow.
And make a long story short, I shut everything down. I wound it down and I did it elegantly. I fulfilled every promise I had to make. I fulfilled all the contracts that I had signed, but I got through it. And it took about 8 months to wind down. And I happened to find someone who bought my business and my products. Like things turned out, even though at first it looked like it was just going to be a $2 million disaster. Oh. And so I was really transparent, though, about what I was going through. And I told a lot of business owners, here's what's happening. I have to quit doing what I'm doing. And I want to do something that's narrow and deep and meaningful instead of wide and shallow to thousands of people.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of people say, I feel exactly like you do. Will you help me as you go through it too? So suddenly I created a whole series of products and events around reinventing yourself. And just by changing my story and evolving, I became a different kind of leader. And then I started getting even more mentors. I invested over $250,000 in myself, in my training, my education, and masterminds and therapy. Okay. I got the full meal deal and I designed a whole new business. And now it's about working with business owners who've reached that brass ring. Either they've hit all their goals and they realize it doesn't mean anything, or the things I was striving for, I outgrew a long time ago, and I've been chasing a ghost.
Yeah.
Or I'm ready to sell my business, but what am I going to do next? Okay, so I'll kind of put a book note there, see if you have any questions, and then I'll tell you about the story about building celebrity, but doing it from an authentic way that feeds your soul. It's like, it's what I think is usually the last major evolution every business owner, founder, and entrepreneur goes through after they've hit that brass ring. They've accomplished what they've accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm just gonna put that out there. Sake of time, part 2. Doors are always open, so we can continue with these stories. But we can go straight into it, right? Because as you were telling these stories, I feel like everybody listening right now, they're going through something similar, right? Like you're going through this, and I was able to identify certain moments, right? Maybe not like you or as aggressive at you, but like we can learn from people like you. Be like, I don't want to get to that point, right? I don't need to get to that point, right? We got to be smart and learn from those stories of people that came before us. So I really appreciate you sharing your journey, and we can continue. I don't know, unless Fonzie has another question, right?
I just want to add, last guest we had here on the show, he was sharing about the ability of learning from the collective story, right? Learning from other people's story. And I really want you, the listener right now, to go back maybe 3-4 minutes and listen to this again, because there's so many lessons. We don't have to experience the same pain to then take action, right? We can learn from somebody like Mike, right, that already lived that, and he's willing to share his story, his message, and honestly, kind of like put your life on the line to teach people what to do and how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
So thank you. And yeah, I'm ready to dive in directly into the next part.
Okay. So here's what I believe most people either they evolve to and realize this is what they really want and need, or they often say, what I really want to do is, and I'm doing this so that I can. Okay. And when you have those conversations, what typically happens is, someone will say, well, I really want to travel the world and I want to support a nonprofit and build a hospital or go back. Like they're motivated by some sort of philanthropic thing. Now, my wife has run a philanthropic organization called the Just Like My Child Foundation for 16 years. And the very brief backstory is her parents are Holocaust survivors. So she has almost no living relatives. Everyone got cooked in the ovens. Okay.
Wow.
They literally ran out of Yugoslavia when the Nazis were marching in and managed to get over here. And she was raised very poor. She was very abused growing up. And when she just woke up in the middle of the night once and said, I got to go to Africa. I can hear the babies dying. I can hear them screaming. And there's a Holocaust happening, and I'm not going to let it happen on my watch. Now, the story is longer than that, but that's essentially the framework. And started going there, came back, started raising money and going back and building schools and hospitals, and eventually created something called the Girl Power Project. But the point of my story here is what oftentimes happens once you've tasted a certain amount of success, and when you can afford a vacation, you find something that really speaks to your heart and your soul. And you'd be like, man, if I didn't have this business, I'd serve this thing instead, And it's like, I just need to reach my FU number. I need to have enough money in the bank so I never have to work again and I can focus all my energy on this.
Yeah.
And the real thing to ask yourself is, why not now? And what's the illusion that prevents you from living what your heart tells you, what your whole soul is telling you? And that is something that, again, our traumas, our old fear traumas of not being enough, not having enough, get in our way.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I've solved these. I've learned how to observe and put a container around and say, I recognize you, you little demon. Okay. It still bothers me, but at least I know it when it's nagging me.
Exactly.
And I know how to put it in a box. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's how the story unfolds. So once I went through my own dark night of the soul and realized I had to literally liquidate everything. Like I sold or gave away everything. I had like 30 years of unbelievable books. I had this huge bookshelf. I just gave it all away. I didn't want to have anything. I wanted to just get rid of everything. I had this huge studio. Shut it down, gave everything away or sold it. And I wanted to just move towards minimalism. And it was because I was a bitch to all the things that I owned because they own me, right? And again, this is something that's a very common evolution. But when I started talking like I am right now and being really open about the failures I'd made and where I think I had spent years not understanding what really matters, I right after I sold the last business, I took a trip with a small group of business owners to Fiji, and I met a guy on that trip. We ended up meeting each other, having great rapport.
Yeah.
And his name's Justin. And my first impression is, wow, what a nice CPA this guy is. And then the more I asked him questions, I found out that he, I said, what do you do? And he goes, well, I'm a cash flow investor. I'm like, well, what the hell does that mean? He goes, well, I don't have a regular job anymore. I have enough investments that I produce enough passive income. I don't need to work, and my wife doesn't need to work. And I'm like, tell me more, and he goes, well, I used to work at Cutco Knives. My wife was a school teacher. My busiest time of the year was summer, and her off time was summer, so we didn't see each other. And we got the 7-year-old girl. And so I decided to start investing, and my goal was to generate enough passive income so she could quit and spend all her time with her daughter and then be with me when I had time off. And as soon as I accomplished that, I decided to do it for me. So I had to replace $65,000 for her income at first, about $150 for his.
Wow.
And then from there, the momentum happened.
Yeah.
And I said, have you ever written a book? And he goes, no. I go, do you speak? No, but I'd like to. Do you have a website? No, but I want one. Would you like to create a product? Yes, I'd love to, but I don't know where to begin. I go, well, you just met the right guy at the right time. I go, so I gave him an offer he couldn't refuse. And we did basically what I do now, which is we created a platform. So we created a whole brand. We call it the Lifestyle Investor. We wrote the book. Ended up bringing in specialists to do all the finishing, but we created effectively like the outline, the framework, the branding. And then we got a great web person. He started a podcast, but we created a $250,000 offer to work with him one-on-one where he teaches you what he does.
Yeah.
A $50,000 a year mastermind. And he did have a really good network. And I introduced him to his first $250,000 client, which is a guy I knew who is wealthy, was looking for someone to mentor him so he could generate passive income and help him with all of his planning and strategies. And then he just started reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'm starting this mastermind. Would you like to learn? And then basically the offer we created, it got a whole bunch of people to say yes right away.
Incredible.
So from zero, no visibility, no list, no anything, to over $1 million in revenue, and a Wall Street Journal #1 bestseller, and a USA Today bestseller, and an Amazon bestseller in less than 8 months. It was extraordinary. And now his brand is just crushing it. Okay.
Yeah.
And he told me the other day, I don't think you'll mind me saying this, but he's got 3 people who have $250,000 each. So $750,000 want him to mentor them one-on-one. And he said, if I take them on, I won't be holding true to a lifestyle investor lifestyle. Okay. He goes, I'd love to have the $350 or the $750,000, but I don't need it. And I'd rather have my quality of life, my connection with my wife and my daughter.
Wow.
Now that, my friends, is success.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right? When you have the willingness and ability to say no to the money, know it's there anytime you want it, but you've hit that point where the things that matter most are the things that matter most, and you know you can have impact, and you've got a platform, and now he's got the ability to, because of his podcast, he can pretty much interview any billionaire he wants to reach out to.
Yeah.
And not long ago he would have said, I'm nobody. I don't have anything. I'm not worthy of even asking. How am I going to, he's asking all these how questions. And I just said, you will live into your brand. And all that is a story away. And you've already got the stories. It has to be assembled in a way that resonates. And we have to give it a package. We have to give it a name, something that's unique, what I call a category of one.
Let's go.
And so
yes.
That's
that illusion we live under, is I'm not worthy and who am I? And I'm it's the, what do they call the imposter syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Famous.
We're all imposters until we're not.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we're speechless right now, Mike. That was an incredible, I mean, not just case studies, just the story itself, the way I've noticed throughout this whole conversation, every time you start with the stories, right? Create this frame. And I think that makes it so no so much more impactful than what it is, because it is by itself extremely impactful. You just help people comprehend it even better, right? And I love everything that you talked about, that category of one, which, by the way, you have a video about that. I think it's on YouTube. That is absolutely amazing, with the example of the songwriter. I love that video. So go check it out, guys. We're going to leave it in the links below. But also, we're going to have to send this clip to Justin, if you don't mind us. We're like, hey, dude, look at this. Mike is sharing your amazing story. But yeah, thank you so much.
Mike, time to wrap up. I think like this has been incredible. Thank you so much for your time. We have 2 quick questions to leave the audience. So first of all, is what is something that somebody that's in the middle of the transition to the entrepreneurial world, right? Or they're starting out as an entrepreneur, they're publishing, they're getting through, the emotions. It's a little hard for them to like put their voice out there. What is something that they can do today to get that momentum and continue to evolve?
Well, I happen to believe that the most important thing is, remember, you're in the transformation business, not the transaction business. So the first transformation is usually going to be your own, or it needs to be the story of someone you've helped, the impact you've created, and you craft a story about social proof. So I just told you a story of transformation, which is the Justin Donald lifestyle investor transformation. We didn't have time for this, but I have another one. It's by a guy named Charlie Epstein, who is this boring, like he'd say, I'm a boring white old Jewish guy. He goes, and I'm a financial advisor. You don't get any more boring than that. And we created a play called Yield of Dreams.
Yes.
So he's the only financial advisor in the world with a one-man show now. All right. We made it up. And the way we made it up is I hired 3 professional stand-up comedians, working comedians, at least up until 18 months ago, who are on stage telling jokes and making a living doing it, because I wanted someone who's hungry in the trenches. Yeah. And we took his stories and turned it into a play. And now it's an app, it's a play, it's educational training videos. Wow. It's an entire platform. And he just sold his business. So he's going to go on the road and introduce people to and help heal their pain about money, which in turn will get them to raise their hands and say, who do I want to manage my money except this guy? Because he's a freaking genius. Okay, him and his team. Yeah. So what a way to be unique. And I tell you that story because that's another one of my transformations. Now, it takes a while when you're just getting started to figure out what resonates with an audience, what resonates with your perfect clientele. But my advice is learn how to storytell, pay attention to stories, and learn how to tell stories either about yourself in a way that an audience resonates with, meaning it's not about you, it's about them. Tell a story about someone you've helped and talk about what their before, during, and after life is like. Mm-hmm. Okay. That is the core of what great marketing, direct response marketing is. It's what are the fewest words someone needs to hear to raise their hand and say, I've been looking for someone like you my whole life. That's cool. The answer to the question is storytell. Secondly, go narrow and deep with expensive offers, not cheap and narrow or cheap and wide. Selling to a lot of people is a hell of a lot harder than selling to the right one.
That was what minute do people need to go back to so they can put this part on repeat?
53 guys, go again. Right. Go again, because that was a golden boulder moment. You got your helmet, Fonzie? Okay, yes. Good. Mike, thank you again. Incredible value. Mm-hmm. Last question, right? Like, we know that you've been in media, that you build your own studios. We talked a little bit behind the scenes, right? You've been in this role. Like, where will you be if you did not publish?
Well, I think where would I be if I wasn't publishing?
Yes.
God. I love media so much. So in the past, for many years, I was the guy behind the camera. Okay.
Mm.
I didn't think I was worthy. I was running the cameras. I was running the mix boards, doing the audio and the production. And I think there was a moment when I started to speak, and it was during like the infomercial toolkit days, when I realized I could teach more effectively, I could present and perform more effectively, and I had watched so many people and studied them that I was better than the people I was working with and working for, and I could articulate faster. So I think what I've been told by a couple of friends of mine who are multi-billionaires who followed my career over the years, and they've said what they think I should be doing or should have done, which in a way I'm kind of doing now, is find some people who've got the chops, have the charisma, and develop them as talent. And I started thinking about doing that for a while, but I realized I didn't want to take like a newbie with no platform and build it from scratch, because it'd take too long and there'd be risk, and it'd be my risk. And that's why I changed my business model up to work with successful business people who had all of the chops, but could also write a check. Yes. Because like, I think at this point, I'm not at my absolute financial goal, but I'm not that far from it. And if I wasn't, like when I work, I go all in and I work hard. But if I'm not working, I'd rather be on my e-bike riding around the bay in San Diego and, having adult beverages or spending my time on a beach in Mexico. Like I don't need more stuff to do. Yeah. And if I'm going to work, I'm going to make money. And I either have to be the talent, or I got to be working with someone and they're going to write out a check. And it's not about the money, but it's also the energetic value exchange. Yeah. So it's not about the money, but if there isn't a payoff and it's not ongoing, I'd rather just dream. And I'm a good dreamer. I like inventing and manifesting, but I'd rather just not think about the money at all and just manifest and dream, if that makes sense. So it's a long-winded, complicated answer to your question, but I think there's a lot of nuance to it too.
Yeah. And thank you, Mike, for the honesty, right? And the reason we ask these questions, right? A lot of people, our life changed when we started publishing, right? From a Facebook Live that we did at 11:30 p.m., right? Like that's what changed everything. And we're like, this is it. And then the show started, and then we connected with people like you, and then we developed relationships, and the business grew. We were able to hire people. We're like, what? So we've lived that, right? And we want the people that are here listening to Content is Profit to be like, it's not just us guys. It's literally every single person that comes in here. We got to put our voices out there. We got to, share our stories. Like you said, is about our audience, and this needs to happen, right? Because we were those guys. We were the ones feeling like as imposters, right? Even now, there's some moments where we're like, man, should we do this, right? And it's not going to stop. But the fact that we are being out there every single day, publishing and having these conversations is what's keeping us accountable to continue to move forward, right? Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing the story. Mike, where can people connect with you? Where can people find you? If they want to work with you, if they want to chat, like what's the best way?
Sure. Well, you mentioned a couple videos, so I'll give you a couple to check out. One of them is if you just go to my primary website, it's my name, MikeKoenigs.com, or a shortcut that's easier to remember and spell is paidforlife.com. There's two things you can grab. One of them is subscribe to my podcast. That's a great way to kind of follow me. I do a podcast with one of my mentors, Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach. Yeah. But if you go to paidforlife.com/funnel, that's where you'll see one of my videos. It's my sales funnel. And in it is a step-by-step video where I story tell, and I really follow my own advice, because marketing, storytelling, building trust is a formula. The human brain loves formulas. And I spent a lot of time working on it. Now I'll be the first one to say, if I change something, I change, I'm never happy with whatever I create, but it's good enough for now.
Yeah.
But there's some really good transformations embedded. And I just say, model that for yourself.
Yes.
And then of course, if you've got the means, there's place you can register. Otherwise, if you follow my podcast, I've got lots of free videos, lots of free content on YouTube.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of like in a place where I'm really expensive or there's tons of free stuff.
Yeah.
But I purposely don't do anything in between. Maybe once in a while I will, but get on my mailing list and stay in touch or reach out to me and
you'll find out.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that represents what you were talking about before, right? The balanced leverage, right? You want something that is going to have that upside, right? The risk that you can manage and give you the life that you're enjoying living, which is, riding the e-bike, having some drinks once in a while. So thank you for sharing that. I love how everything connects, is full circle. And I am sure the person listening right now took so much value from you, Mike. So thank you.
Thank you, my young brothers. I'm really proud of you. Congratulations on doing what you're doing. And I think we did talk about this. My wife and I are buying a place in Mexico. We're building a home down there. And one of our visions is I'm going to build a studio down there. And also one of the ideas I have is to give a bunch of young Mexican kids, some creatives, an opportunity to work and create a business and mentor them. I love the culture. I love the people. I love the fire and the spirit. And and I happen to just love everything about being down in the Baja too. So
let's go. Yeah, and
gotta be in a warm place, right?
Let us know. We'll come down, be translators, and party with you guys. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate it, man. That's such a powerful vision, such a powerful story. There's so many more years to come, and I can't wait to see where you and the people that you help go. Fonzie, anything else you want to add?
No, again, just once more. Thank you, Mike. Yeah. And I think we are ready for part 2 eventually.
Maybe Mexico. Let's go.
Gracias, amigos.
Yes, let's go. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show on your favorite platform and on social media at BizBrosCo.
That is right. And if Mike here today helped you move one step closer to your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Awesome.
Right. Mike, we're still live on social media. Quick tradition, quick selfie, big smile. Whoa. All right, here we go. We got to come close.
There you go. Oh, wait. The camera. There we go.
There we go. 1, 2, and 3. Awesome. See you later, social media. Take care.
All right. I'll see you later.